Please don't be mad. It's just that this year we decided to do things differently. Very small, no fuss. You'll understand, right? My sister Sarah's voice was tight and polite, like she was already apologizing for a betrayal that hadn't even been fully spoken yet. I was sitting in the kitchen of my apartment in Los Angeles, a cup of cold coffee in my hands, silent. It took me a few seconds to fully grasp what she'd just said. This year, Thanksgiving will be very intimate. Intimate. Without me. That's how I found out casually, 3 days before the holiday, that for the first time in 15 years, I wouldn't be at the family table. Not because I was sick. Not because I had left the country. But simply because someone decided it would be quieter without me. I muttered something like, "Okay, I understand." But inside, everything screamed. Am I a stranger now? When exactly did I stop being part of the circle? And why didn't anyone even think to talk to me about it beforehand? Thanksgiving has always been more than a holiday to me. I never missed a single one in the past 15 years. I always flew to Sacramento, even if it meant layovers and spending my last dollars on tickets. Every year, I made my signature sweet potato casserole with marshmallows. The kids, my nieces and nephews, called it fairy food because it was sweet, but somehow still a vegetable. I helped set the table, hung garlands, took pictures of Mom every time she put the turkey in the oven and said, "Just don't catch my bad angle." I even had my own little corner, the armchair by the window, where I'd sit with a glass of wine after dinner, soaking in the smell of cinnamon, turkey, and ridiculous family laughter. And this year, silence. I set down my phone, sat on the couch, and stared at nothing. Even the air in the room felt different, thick, sticky, like everything had frozen in place. Hurt didn't come right away. First came emptiness. Like someone had carefully cut me out of the picture, like in Photoshop, and left a pale void in my place. I didn't know who to blame. My family? Myself? Or maybe that strange American habit of simplifying everything, shrinking holidays, avoiding hard conversations, quietly removing the ones who stir emotions. Because I was emotional. Because I asked hard questions. Because I wasn't afraid to talk about things we usually tiptoe around. But still, it's me. Me, who dragged the Christmas tree out of the garage in November. Me, who bought the kids gifts early and wrapped them with handwritten tags. Me, who last year arrived first and left last. Now I was alone. Same wine, same casserole. But no table, no laughter. No awkward little, "What are you thankful for this year?" exchange. You know what hurts more than anger? More than disappointment? It's the feeling that you were just overlooked. Not included, not mentioned. Like you're an option. An afterthought. And the scariest part? You start to believe maybe that's all you are. I stared at my empty plate and thought, maybe it's just one holiday. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they're just tired. But then Sarah's voice echoed in my mind again. You'll understand. I don't understand. And that's when my most honest Thanksgiving began. No invitation. No noisy table. But full awareness. Sometimes being left out of the circle isn't a loss. It's the beginning of your own. Where you're not asked to understand so they can forget you. You're seen so you stay. The apartment smelled like cinnamon and roasted sweet potatoes. I put the casserole in the oven out of habit. Even though I knew no one would be eating it. Except me. And even that more out of defiance than appetite. A glass of red wine was already on the table, like an old friend who shows up when no one else does. I curled up on the couch, pulled my legs under me, and picked up my phone. At least I'll see how it's going over there, I thought, opening Instagram. The first story, Mom in her pumpkin apron, laughing and waving a spatula. The second, Sarah filming the table, styled like a magazine cover. Golden napkins, candles, little handwritten thankful cards. The third, my brother Josh, hugging someone. No, not someone. Her. Thin, like college hunger. Wearing a cropped knit top, with perfect hair and a face like she was casually filming content for another paid partnership. I stared at the screen. My place between Josh and my nephew Justin now taken by her. The same girl who posted a reel just last month that said, "Thanksgiving is cute, but toxic relatives are not invited." I couldn't believe it. Justin, my baby, my little bunny, the one who used to run to hug me yelling Auntie M, hadn't even texted. Not even a happy Thanksgiving. I took a sip of wine. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe it really was simpler. Just one of those years. Maybe they were tired. Maybe a new face is just fresher, more exciting. Because I'm the past. And she's content. I imagined her saying, "Let's take a boomerang." And Mom awkwardly waving, trying to keep up. Sarah nodding with her polite, tight smile. She's so positive. And me? I'm sitting here. With this casserole. With this wine. With the feeling that I've been replaced by a filter. Guess family traditions are TikTok formatted now, I thought, scrolling. More photos. 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 Not a trace that I was ever part of that table. They all looked happy. Real. Or as real as one can look with a warm glow filter and retouched teeth. And I felt cut out not just from the family, but from memory. As if being difficult, being honest, being alive was no longer trendy. Now the only thing that matters is being photogenic. Being filtered. I put the phone face down. And suddenly I thought, what if I never sit at that table again? What if my place is permanently taken? And that's when it hit not disappointment, but anger. Not at them. At myself. For letting someone else's approval measure my worth. For giving 15 years of effort, care, and love without expectations, but always with hope. Hope that they'd remember. But tonight it seems all that's left is me. And my casserole. And the wine I'll finish. Not for them. But for me, I hadn't planned on posting anything. Honestly, at first I just wanted to scroll, cry into my wine, and fall asleep to some meaningless Christmas movie. But then my hand reached for the gallery. Last year's photo. All of us at the table. Mom with her wine glass, Justin with cranberry sauce on his cheek, me in the turkey apron with that exact expression, exhausted but happy. It was one of those rare moments when you actually feel part of something bigger. Family, history, warmth. And suddenly, I realized that photo was my proof. I was there. I am real. I didn't imagine my place. I opened Instagram and typed, "This year, there's no seat at the table, at least not for me. But I'm still grateful that once I had one. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone feeling left out today. You're not alone." And I added number family, number truth, number not invite this year. I hesitated. My hand shook. But I hit post. At first, silence. I thought, well, that was a mistake. Now comes the awkward silence, or worse, the polite, "Please take that down." But 5 minutes later, the first message came in. A woman I didn't know. "Thank you. I'm alone too. They decided it'd be easier without me." I felt like trash, but now, not as alone. Then another. And another. A woman from Texas wrote, "Your post reminded me of 2020 when my parents only invited the married ones. And I was newly divorced. Thank you for saying it." A guy from Boston. "You have no idea how much I needed this. It's just me, my dog, and a bottle of Pepsi today. But at least someone gets it." My DMs turned into a room full of voices. Different. Wounded. Real. And as I read them for the first time all evening, I felt warmth in my chest again. Not from the family who decided I was too much, too emotional, too honest, too inconvenient. But from total strangers who saw me, reached back, recognized something in me. Sometimes, one sentence is all it takes to make someone feel a little less alone. One photo, one thought. One act of vulnerability. The world didn't become kinder in the last 30 minutes. My family didn't call. And my nephew's still silent. But I didn't feel exiled anymore. I was in a room. Not theirs, but mine. With others who had no place but found the words. This isn't about the turkey. Not about the table. Not about the seat that stayed empty. It's about the years. After the wave of support on Instagram, I felt confident for a while. Even light, almost. But as soon as the apartment got quiet, another wave came. Deeper. The kind you can't just brush off. I knew why they didn't invite me. They didn't want conflict. They didn't want heavy topics. They didn't want me as I am. It started 3 years ago. I left a law firm in San Diego where I worked as a paralegal. Good salary, stability, benefits. And the feeling that I was dying slowly, every day, from 9 to 6. I started making short documentaries. About homelessness. About migrants. About loneliness. About real things I believed mattered. My mom didn't understand. Are you trying to be a YouTuber? You're a grown woman, Emily. It's time to stop playing with a camera. And my brother, Justin, was always her golden boy. He works in real estate, has 3 kids, a suburban home near Phoenix, and that permanent smile in family photos. He told me, "You're too sensitive. You're always so dramatic." They wanted me to fit in. To show up at holidays, bring the casserole, and smile politely when an uncle asked, "So, when are you going to get a real job?" I tried, for years. I agreed. I didn't argue. I wore the neutral dress and brought gifts for the nieces and nephews. Even when everything inside me was screaming. And what did I get? The role of a background character. The one you can cut out with a single call. You'll understand. This year it's just a small gathering. I sat by the window with a glass of cold wine and thought, what if I stop trying to be convenient? What if I never go back to a place where they value compliance over personhood? Because I haven't changed. I just stopped pretending. And in that moment, I realized the cracks were always there. I'm just not covering them up with wallpaper anymore. The morning after Thanksgiving had always felt strange. The house smelled of cold leftovers, but this year it also smelled like silence. I woke up late, with a dull ache in my head and a blurred feeling like none of it had been quite real. But it was. It wasn't some nightmare or a bad dream. I had actually been forgotten. Deliberately. I was pouring myself black coffee when I saw a notification. New email from Linda James. Aunt Linda. From Chicago. My father's older sister. We hadn't spoken in maybe 10 years. She'd left the family circle long ago for what they called personal reasons. I opened the email. The first lines were simple, neat, just like her. Dear Emily, I saw your photo. I didn't expect to cry, but I did. Because I know I've known what that feels like. I once ate Thanksgiving dinner alone too. And it was the most honest meal of my life. I held my breath reading it. Asterisk, asterisk. 30 years ago, I left my husband. He was respected in our church, and he hid the violence behind smiles. No one believed me. The family said I was breaking things apart. Mom said, you ruined it yourself. So that first Thanksgiving after the divorce, I sat alone, with canned soup and an old photo album, feeling like an outcast. But you know what? That night, I realized I wasn't living by their rules anymore. I had walked out of the cage. Asterisk, asterisk. I had no idea. None of us did. They always said Linda was just weird, lives alone, no family, a rebel. But now I knew she was strong. Quietly strong. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "You are not alone, Emily. Being excluded doesn't always mean being lost. Sometimes, it means you're the first to step beyond the silence. Stay honest even if no one sets a table for that." I kept rereading the letter, again and again. And somewhere in my chest, something clicked. Maybe I hadn't lost my family. Maybe I had just found a new one. In People Who Aren't Afraid to Speak, I sent Linda a short message. "Thank you for writing. It changed my day. Maybe we could be together for Christmas? Even if just online." She replied a minute later. "I'd love that, and just so you know, you're not in exile. You're the first in the family to tell the truth. And right then, for the first time in 2 days, I smiled. Not out of politeness, but because it felt like my voice wasn't alone. I was making tea when I absent-mindedly opened Instagram. You know how it is muscle memory. Your hand just reaches for it, like maybe there's something there that will finally make sense of it all. There was no answer. But there was a story. A story. From my brother. A table full of leftovers, wine glasses, candles, scraps of the holiday dinner, and the caption. Some people love drama more than family. I read it 3 times. And then again, my heart started pounding in my ears. He didn't tag me, didn't say my name. But everyone knew. It was about me. About the one who wasn't invited. The one who posted the whiny photo. The one who dared to feel like a stranger in her own family. I sat down. Slowly. The anger rose inside me like steam from the kettle. And I didn't even know who I was more angry with. Him, for the cruelty. Or myself, for still hoping he had just not thought it through. But he did. He knew. And he still hit post. I could have written him a long message, or just one line. Are you serious? But I didn't. Not because I had no words, but because my words are no longer for him. I opened my laptop, and I started to write. Not a comeback, not revenge. The truth. Raw, unfiltered, no pretty wrapping. My name is Emily. I used to think family was unconditional. That if you helped, cared, showed up to every holiday, they'd save you a seat at the table. This year, I learned, not always. Sometimes they cross you out, quietly. No explanation, no reason, just because they can. And it hurts. But staying silent hurts more. So I'm speaking. Because maybe someone else is also eating alone tonight, wondering, what did I do wrong? And the answer is nothing. You're not broken. You're not extra. Sometimes, being too much just means being real. I hit post, and I walked away to wash my face. So I wouldn't have to watch it get ignored. Because I was sure that's what would happen. But an hour later, boom! Notifications started pouring in. First, 20 likes. Then 500. Then 3,000. Then tens of thousands. Comments from women, men, teenagers, the elderly. All with one emotion. Thank you. Me too. One woman wrote, "Last year I spent Thanksgiving with my dog in silence. Your post felt like a hug." A guy from Austin said, "You're strong. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's pain that connects us." I sat staring at the screen, shaking. Not from fear, but from this strange feeling that my wounds had become a mirror for others. That in loneliness, there's a strange kind of togetherness. And that truth, when spoken out loud, can echo louder than a table full of relatives. But my family stayed silent. No likes. No message. Nothing. And you know what? In that moment, I realized their silence isn't my shame. It's their choice. And I made mine. December in Seattle always smells like rain and pine. It's damp, it's cold, but somehow beautiful. I was just getting home when I saw a message in my DMs. From a girl named Mia. We'd been following each other for a while. I didn't know her personally. But when I posted that Thanksgiving photo, she'd sent a few kind words. And now an invitation. "Hey Emily, a few of us are doing a little dinner for those who got forgotten. No drama, no expectations. Just to be around each other. If you'd like to come, you're more than welcome. Bring something that reminds you of what home really means." I reread that message probably 10 times. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I had to earn a seat at someone's table. No need to explain why I was alone. I was simply invited. I spent a long time thinking about what to bring. Cookies, pie, wine, all good options. But in the end, the choice was clear. I pulled out an old notebook with the recipe for that casserole. Yes, the same one I'd made 15 years in a row. Potatoes, cheese, crispy topping, and the secret layer of bacon no one ever knew about. I cooked it without bitterness. For the first time, I realized it didn't belong to the past. It was part of me. And I could take it wherever I wanted. The dinner was in a cozy apartment in Queen Anne. Candles flickered. Wooden chairs gathered around a small table. In the corner, an old speaker was playing Norah Jones. There were 10 of us. And no one was hiding their story. One girl, Lauren, said her parents had flown to Costa Rica and just forgot to mention it. A man in his 50s shared that every year, his ex-wife takes the kids so he just makes soup for the neighbors. A guy admitted he left home on purpose because he couldn't keep pretending to be the good son. I listened, and something warm began to spread inside me. Here, no one had to be perfect. No one had to wear a mask. We all came as we were. When I set my casserole on the table, someone joked, "Wait, is that the legendary one from your post?" I laughed and nodded. The one and only. And she decided she deserved a new home too. That night, I didn't feel lonely. Not even just accepted. I felt for the first time in a long time like I was home. Not a house with family portraits on the wall, but a space where honesty mattered more than last names. Where warmth came not from blood ties, but from no one being afraid to be real. I rode home holding the empty casserole dish in my hands. And one thought filled my mind. That was my dinner. My tradition. And now, my new beginning. I never thought a single photo could change anything. Especially not the one I posted out of pure desperation. With a heavy heart, a lump in my throat. Just hoping someone might hear me. And now it's January. A new year, a new calendar, new messages in my inbox. One evening, I got a DM from the host of the podcast Voices Uninvited. I'd listened to it before stories of those who were left out, misunderstood, unwelcomed. Every story felt like a mirror. Emily, we'd love for you to share yours. Your post has been shared across hundreds of accounts. People are calling it the honest face of loneliness. Please come talk to us. I hesitated for a while, but in the end I said yes. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. The recording was in a small studio on the edge of Seattle. Warm lamplight. A cup of cinnamon tea. A microphone. "Why did you decide to post that photo?" asked the host, Celine. I paused, then said, "Because I wanted someone to see what being left out really looks like. Not in the movies, in real life. I wanted someone to know they're not alone." We talked for an hour. About family patterns. About silence that's louder than shouting. About how terrifying it is to be honest, especially with yourself. The episode aired a week later. I didn't expect much. At first, people I knew. Then, complete strangers. "It's like you told my story." I cried, Emily. But then, I texted my mom. I started talking to myself again. Because of you. And that's when I understood. A photo posted in pain can become the beginning of someone else's healing. Later, the podcast was shared with an online publication. They asked if I'd write a short first-person column. That's how my piece ended up on the front page of Medium. The title was simple. I thought I'd just been forgotten, but I finally found myself. I didn't feel famous. And honestly, I didn't want to. But I did feel something else. That the voice I used to apologize for was now helping someone else find theirs. And that was a new kind of victory. Quiet. Without confetti. Without my family's approval. But with something deeper. A quiet, powerful knowing. I did it. I told the truth. And it was heard.